Hi, do you remember this book? So, it's written by Anton Robbins. The title is Awakening the Giant Within. So, I think 2 months ago I had already spoken about the first chapters. Okay, today we are going to speak about chapter number 6, which is precisely the following: how to change anything or how to change a bad behavior. So, according to the author's perspective, there are 6 steps that you need to take in order to break an old and bad habit as well. Let's get started with the first step. First step is you need to identify the habit on which you want to change. This is the first thing, is to acknowledge the habits that you want to break. Second step is to create, for example, a leverage. In other words, it means that in order for you to eliminate once all this bad habit, you need, for example, to associate a lot of pain to the old habit, and you need to associate pleasure to the new behavior that you are going to build. Let me give you some examples and you will understand what the auto perspective is. Let's assume that you enjoy, for example, smoking a lot. Therefore, the best way to quit smoking is, for example, to start reading a lot of articles on which they claim that cigarette, whether in mid-term or long-term, might create some kind of cancer. Therefore, if you associate, for example, cancer with the consumption of somehow cigarettes, this type of association of pain will help you to quit smoking. Therefore, if you associate, for example, the absence of smoking somehow will make you much stronger and will make you socially acceptable, you are going to associate, for example, the absence of smoking with a new type of pleasure. So this what author calls a step number 1, creating and leverage. Step number 3, here we are. Step number 3 is what author calls as interrupting, for example, a pattern, or interrupting, for example, a limit patterns. It doesn't matter if you have already identified the problem, or if you have identified the addiction or the bad habit you want to quit, and if you have already, for example, create leverage. If you don't break old pattern, you will not go anywhere. As people used to say, for example, you can't expect new outcomes if you keep doing the same thing over again. So the idea, if you have the same schedule related to an addition, therefore you are going to build the same pathway in your brain. So that's why, according to author's perspective, this should be a step number 3, breaking limiting patterns. How do you do that? Again, according to Anthony Robbins, you need to create and embrace surprising most of the time in your own brain. Now let's jump into step number 4. How can you make and change, or how can you change any bad habits? According to the author's point of view, obviously, you need to replace the old habit with a new one. It doesn't make sense at all if you want to quit smoking, for example, or you want to quit drinking alcohol, for example, yet you don't find a new source of pleasure. If you don't do that, you will return to your old behavior. The idea, once you quit uh, doing, for example, this bad behavior, you should replace with a new behavior. Why? Because you need to associate your new behavior with some kind of pleasure as well. Okay? For example, let's assume that you used to smoke cigarettes. Now you quit smoking. Okay? Your new passion might be, for example, practice exercise. Somehow it also gives you pleasure. Okay, or your new task might be, for example, drinking coffee instead of smoking cigarette. The idea is, when you quit an addiction, bad addiction, we could have said that, you need to replace with a new behavior. And our last step, even though earlier on I said that there are 6 steps, but for pedagogical reasons, once again, we're just going to cover 5 of them. So the fifth step that you need to take in order to eliminate or to break bad behavior is precisely to be consistent. So again, consistency is the key in order for you to eliminate once for all your bad behavior. Okay, it doesn't make sense if you identify the bad habit, if you create leverage, okay, if you break limiting, for example, patterns, sorry, if you replace with new and health habits, yet you don't start behaving consistently. Consistency is the key to strong new psychological pathway to change your behavior. So